podcast.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the Goy side.
Interesting, but I way prefer that. What was the other one?
Potsending.
Nah.
I'm
Alright.
on the
Doesn't
Goy
have the
side.
vibes.
I'm on the
Doesn't
Goy
have the
side.
vibes. Are we recording on everything?
It looks like it.
Lekker. Okay.
Okay, and welcome to Not the Bet Central podcast, not powered by Betcoza. I'm sitting here with the lovely usuals in Brad and Jared, but we've got our special experts on a particular subject. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis, who is... amongst many things, he is the voice of my conscience because probably the voice I hear the most. A prolific podcaster for the Bet Central podcast, as I kind of alluded to at the start. Sports journalist, Good Hope Radio FM presenter, betting expert now as per eNews Africa. That happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Which I'd like to touch on. You guys apparently did a survey, but what Bradley always does, and I think it's a very nice thing, and it's probably my first one that I've introed in quite a while, is how would you like to introduce yourself, Mr. Lewis?
Wow.
What's missing from that?
Yeah.
I actually think you hit all the high spots, to be honest with you. Former sports reporter, prolific podcast. I like that because I say that sometimes. And yeah, that's me, head of content at Betcoza.
Oh, I forgot that one. Yeah.
And
Father, husband.
father, am I allowed to say that?
Yes, of
You're a
course.
father.
Yeah.
We're all about encapsulating the human.
Father, not a
that's-
husband.
Because that's quite a big thing. I'm a dad with my lady for 12 years. That's also a contentious issue. We won't argue about that. And yeah, I came from I'm a dad, but I feel like I've got a young spirit in me. I was just telling Durant about a big party weekend I had recently. So I'm trying to balance that life. But I think you got the intro spot on too.
Okay.
To cut it short.
All
Now,
right.
I feel like this is a therapy session all of a sudden.
Yeah, no. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
Indeed. Thank you for your time. Cole's been a part of the CAYA family for a very, very long time, and it's been nothing but a pleasure. I think it's been a project that Dury has loved working on. We've become, the conversation around sports now is a daily occurrence, and yeah, I'm excited to get into all of that, the sporting world in South Africa, the sports betting world in South Africa, sports at large, on the world stage at the moment, gambling, the yellow dung. We're getting into it.
And it's the World Cup
partying,
now.
why not?
And it's the World Cup now as
Exactly.
well. So I think that's also something that we're going to touch on. One thing I do think I actually forgot to mention in that intro is also not just the host of the Bet Central podcast, but also the host of the sports podcast, which is a podcast that
kind of dies.
often dies.
I know. Well, Dalen's a busy man.
Yeah.
He's a comedian and on radio, so he's quite a busy dude. So I like to lay the blame with him. But,
Okay.
I mean, you hear my voice every day, Durant. It's actually quite crazy how often you are listening to me, almost daily.
Genuinely, actually, daily.
It's crazy. So I mean, that's enough to keep me busy. I've been with CAYA for, I think the podcast has been going for over a year now. We've done over 500 podcasts. Episodes. Over 500 episodes.
Sure.
So I'm pretty proud of kind of what we have built. And I think it's, as much as I do love the sport, you also have to be paired with the right person. And that's why I've been paired. That's why you're the perfect person, Brad. Just joking. Durant is
I was going to claim that.
Durant is he's honestly the star behind the show, and I think he also kind of drives me because I can get lazy sometimes. Because I mean, sometimes I'm doing 10, 12 episodes a week, and he's like, just push.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more money for CAYA, but I still think it comes from a good place. So Durant's actually been a godsend, and I speak to you second most out next to my partner.
Legitimately. And I think the last time we had we normally have a meeting, which is actually just an excuse for us to actually catch up outside of the podcast and have a few beers and everything. And I literally I told you then, I was like, when you started
when you go into WhatsApp, it's
Frequently
you're frequently contacted.
Yeah.
You're above my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So yeah, no, but I think genuinely like the only time we don't talk is on weekends.
Yeah.
And every now and again, I share like a little bet slip with you, and I'm proud of myself. And I want you to be proud of myself. But yeah, so at least over weekends, we take a break from each other.
Yeah.
Which is important. I want to get into your media background because you've got quite an extensive background in media in a variety of different formats, and now also in back in radio and everything. And as the director of content for Bet Central as a part of the content at Bet why? I mean, obviously, you enjoy it, and you're a great podcaster, but why have you guys enjoyed doing the podcasting so much? And yeah, I mean, what's pushed the podcasting side of things for you?
I think it's definitely an outlet for me, personally. I'd never consider myself a creative person, but it definitely, sport has always been my thing. And only late in my life did I realize, that's what I should be doing for work. But why the podcast is a success, I think I speak to the right guests. We've touched on Durant, so I mean that's
that conversation's done.
Because editing is important. So I just want to get that across.
I'll leave. Like,
editing is super important. So you need a good editor and producer. But I think I've got great guests on, and I think for the most part, I'm really interested in the stuff that I'm talking about. I mean, through the podcast, I wanted to do a NFL podcast and an NBA podcast, and I wasn't as into it as what I was maybe 10 years ago. But these podcasts is like, I'm like a child. It's rejuvenated me. I watch NFL and NBA content literally every day now. I would say it's close to being my favorite sports. So it's done that for me as well. It's just, I think it's my outlet for creativity.
But I think that's what, and that'll be, like you said, I think that's probably what makes it as successful as it has been, is that it is really just a passion thing for you as someone who, it's a podcast about sports and betting by someone who loves sports and getting into the technical and the analysis and so it's just passion. And then, people will watch it and go, yeah, it's a branded podcast, but actually not really. It's a podcast of a whole bunch of people who love the sports they're talking about. And even for Dury, I know it's as much a thing, where it's just a conversation that you love being a part of and engaging with. And I think it's important. And I think that's what makes podcasts so interesting and successful, is because of the format, is that you can get into, people do just get to, delve into their passions and engage with their passions deeply and in a way that other people can relate to and understand and be a part of, which
100%,
which I think is really special.
I mustn't forget, I'm lucky. I mean, I do work for Bet. They fund it all, and it's no one has a say in what kind of content I should do. It's really just coming from me. And they just back me with the funding to do kind of what I want. So it truly is like a Carl Lewis passion project.
Well, shout out to Bet because it's a brilliant passion project that I think is such a cool way of really also engaging with people in the community within the broader communities of those sports and of those. You mentioned that NBA and NFL are now some of your favorite sports. What are your top 5 sports to cover in a podcast? What are or the ones that you enjoy doing the podcast on the most? Although I'm aware that's a contentious question.
It is. I would say NFL, NBA. I have to say footy. I mean, you listen to the footy one. Grant's really insightful. And then I love cricket and I love rugby. So I would say those are the top 5. But I mean, even speaking to my golf guy, Wade, he's so knowledgeable. I'm always keeping an eye on the golf now. UFC, I could never. I think the violence was too hectic for me. So I never properly got into it. So that's why I've handed the podcast over to a colleague of mine who I'm trying to, build up. But my dream actually is, just to get off topic, my dream is to have a podcast on reality TV, specifically with a focus on
Love Island.
Bravo stuff, Love Island, Real Housewives, Below Deck. because these are things that are like a part of my weekly. Me and my missus, that's our thing. We do not stray from our schedules. So I know she wants to. So that's my next thing, to get into reality TV podcasting.
Betting podcast from Love Island, 100%. You could. Who's gonna make it home? Who's staying this week? Who's gonna?
They have
Weirdly enough, we have
markets.
odds. We have odds on BetCoza about Love Island, the UK one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's a viable sport. That's a viable betting podcast. In my opinion, I think you should make it happen. Speaking of, you touched on the rugby and the football, and of late we've had a few. There's been some very interesting, very contentious issues around rugby and around football on the world stage. The rugby, obviously, more directly affecting us as South Africans. And I wanted to, get into. I mean, the Autumn Nations series has been interesting.
Yes,
in a lot of ways. There've been surprises on the pitch. There've been surprises and things that no one expected from referees.
Yeah.
Rassie's getting himself into trouble as he tends to.
Yeah.
Although this one, I'm like, hey guys,
That's a contentious issue with Rassie. I think there's definitely two schools of thought when it comes to you have the rabid South African fans who whatever Rassie says we follow, whereas I maybe take a stance where like, dude, like chill. I do honestly feel that fans from other nations, they have a point when they say we complain about the ref too much, because I really think we do. But in that same breath, Angus Gardner, the referee against England and South Africa, we got a lot of good calls our way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think subconsciously, Rassie's work is actually all the stuff that he's saying online, taking the heat away from the players. Because remember, Jacques Nienaber's win rate hovers around 50%.
Yeah.
It's not 60, 70%.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he means it to be this genius work, but I think it's working. Like, I think the refs subconsciously think, hey, we can't be seen to be too biased against South Africa, because we got a lot of good calls against England. And then, Rassie's taken the heat off the players, maybe, because we lost.
Yeah.
This tour could have been disastrous. We lost against Ireland, France, and then we walloped Italy, and now we had a great win against England, which, now that you look at it, okay, we lost by 3 points against the world number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then we killed Italy and England. So actually, it's not a bad tour, and we had a couple of players missing. But
What do you think about that France game? Because there was, not that I watch sports ad nauseum just because I don't have the time, but I did watch that France game, and there were a few calls in that game where it did just seem like, Peter Steph du Toit being sent off for something where another player bumped him.
Yeah.
It was so non-cynical against the world number ones. If you take off an experienced player like that for the first thing he does in the game within the first 10 minutes, that just puts us on the back foot for 70 minutes. And then, obviously with Cheslin's thing, at least he got a red card, as he absolutely should have.
Yeah.
But then even, what's his face, the guy who recently, he was the oldest debutant, I forget his name. But then him
Dion.
getting sent off
Dion Free.
for the first thing he did for bringing down a maul that he wasn't even in anymore. Like,
Okay.
it was frustrating to watch.
The Peter Steph du Toit thing, I think the way rugby's going, and I love the fact that World Rugby cares about head injuries, because I hate it when people say, like, oh, the game's getting soft, soft. Concussion CTE is a
100%.
real thing.
Yeah.
So if you're following the laws, I know there was a mitigating factor. Someone pushed Peter Steph, and he's really not that dude. He's not an aggressive dude. Well, he's super aggressive, but he's not
within the rules of the game generally.
He should have been sent off. I'm happy with that. It was direct contact with the head. There was barely any mitigating circumstances, unless you're getting finicky. Someone pushed him.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. But it's not like Rassie does it. Although I don't like Rassie talking about it and putting South Africans in the eye as referee complainers. It does have a point, though. There's those videos he did on the Lions tour, they were super specific. Even the way the ref spoke to Sia Khaleesi and how he dealt with Alan Wynne-Jones, which was the Lions captain. These things not needed to be brought up, but they were actually things that, small little details that affect the match. Although I do think we have been affected by bad refereeing decisions. I think it evens out over time. And And I just do feel that South Africa could win the small moments a bit better. Like, we could have beaten Ireland. We could have beaten France. I think there's times where I feel we're missing an extra gear where we should be winning games. Like, we always like 3-5 points behind. These are games that we can win. So I just think there's an extra gear the South African side can get into. But that being said, we're not in the worst position come 2023. We're actually in a fantastic position. So I'm feeling positive after the tour. But when it comes to Rassie, maybe he's a genius and I just don't understand it. But I do feel that South Africans complain a bit too much about the ref. Although there is...
Although sometimes they have a point. But it's, 100%. And I saw I forget the guy's name, but like a rugby content creator who made a good video. And I think he put it well. He was like, he was like, this whole thing with the refs and Rassie has made me not want to make content about South African rugby games anymore, because if I talk about very real issues with the refs where, and there has been a track record through the years, and the World Rugby appeals process just doesn't seem to go anywhere for us, And so then you have like Rassie just, getting frustrated and just saying, fuck it, I'm putting it out, like no one's listening, which each, that's the values of that. But he was like, I don't want to make content about it because I either don't talk about it, and there are games where I feel we could have won if it hadn't been for reffing decisions, but I just don't talk about it, and there's a big gaping void in the content. Or I talk about it, the South Africans, or most South Africans, back me, and then everyone who's international that watches my content goes, like, stop being a complaining South African, play the game. And it's like, but guys, like, do you not see this sometimes?
So I always think this about refereeing. Refereeing rugby is not easy. Like, you can't just fire this crop of refs and think you're going to get new refs. There's so much up to interpretation. There's so much gray area. It's not black and white. That's the unfortunate thing with rugby. And if I think about it, I don't know how to solve it, to be honest with you. Because just the thing about the ruck, it's for a normal person who maybe isn't into rugby, you're thinking, what the fuck is going on here? And I think there's so many ways you can interpret a ruck. Me and you, all of us have maybe been watching rugby for years, but we can see different things. And I think that's the issue. I think rugby refereeing is so bloody hard. And I actually don't have a solution as is. And I don't think the refs are that bad.
I've got a solution, and it comes from another podcast that we kind of collaborated on. It's the wonderful gentleman at Rugby Bits. This is one of the earliest episodes. I say the way you can fix refereeing is simple. Is only hire any referee on the international stage has to have played prop in their lives.
Oh yeah,
but you'll never get a prop as a referee because they're fat and slow, and I can say that because I'm a prop. But because all those finicky like those scrum calls,
that's a lottery. It's a lottery, dude.
If you don't know exactly what's going on there, and also the first image that you get as somebody who's an ex-prop is an old Afrikaans man sitting there with a brandy in his hands, and they know the most about any rugby game on earth. So I'm happy about that. I think that's the solution.
More props converting and doing more cardio to become refs. Once the head injuries become
chat to I'm literally just pulling in like this feels like me and Carl have a lot of like inside jokes.
Okay, fine. Jesus.
But we need to chat to Dave Wessels, who's an assistant coach at the Stormers and also a regular guest of the Bet Central podcast. You need to get him. He does these coaching training camps, but I think he needs to build a reffing training camps. Where it's literally just, getting a bunch of old props to run around.
I actually want to listen to if he has a solution for World Rugby refereeing. Listen, Rassie and World Rugby did meet a couple of days ago. So as much as I'm like, Rassie, stop putting us in the eyes. This dude is getting results, this dude is
he's
getting
having
results,
the conversations.
Yeah.
And maybe there is, sometimes there is a method to the madness that some of us don't understand, and obviously we don't understand the ins and outs and backs and forths of world rugby.
There must be a reason for what he's doing.
I think so. Yeah,
I just
he's
think
a smart dude.
He's the best. He's the best content creator in South Africa because every video that he's put out has gone viral.
Incredible.
What a great strike rate, actually.
His strike rate's incredible.
He needs to start a course.
He needs to do a masterclass on
Content
sports
creation.
content
Do you
creation.
remember? During the Lion series, there was an account. I forgot what it was. Johan something.
Oh, the Twitter account.
Yaku Johan. And I think it was Rassie's burner account. Yeah. He was just tweeting like random stuff.
Guy.
Yeah.
But it's that seems a bit close to home.
Yeah. Rassie's I mean, there's a documentary going around about him now. So you can see he's a very complex dude. And I think shit means a lot to him. Man. And he takes stuff personally.
I think that's the thing. If he feels like there's an injustice, it hurts his soul.
Yeah.
Like that team, means the world to him. And I think that's it's been so good for South African rugby to have him in our corner just because he's a dogged
That's why we ride for him.
For South African rugby.
That's why we ride for him. That's why South African fans will ride for that dude. Because, I mean, if Eddie Jones was carrying on like Rassie Erasmus, we'd be like, oh, Eddie, you whinger, you this, you that. But it's Rassie, our blinders are on and we just like, this is the dude.
Yeah, he's going to bat for us. So
No, I think it was in Chasing the Sun, that documentary, when he was talking about, I think it was Makazole
Mapimpi, yeah.
That scene where he's crying. Like, that's just where every South African was like, okay.
You can do whatever you want and we'll have your
But remember this, there's a foundation to all of this love. And that foundation is you won a World Cup.
Yeah.
It's winning.
Yeah.
South Africans like
Love
winners.
winning.
People like winners. So you need to first show that you can win. And he understands that. I think he said as much in that documentary. You have to be a winner to get the grace that he gets.
Yeah.
To have a 50%. I mean, Jacques Nienaber's record is very similar to Alistair Coetzee's record. But because he's part of Rassie's team.
Same, like a bunch
they built that cachet,
Like even Meyer, Heineke, he also had like a 55.
Yes, exactly. But they didn't win a World Cup. And it's just South African likes winners. So without the World Cup, there is no this Rassie and us being...
Yeah.
So we must just be mindful of that.
Yeah.
It's also his character though.
Yeah.
Like his videos on TikTok and the one video where he was drunk, jolling.
Yeah. He also feels, I think it's that, and he feels like he'd be lucky to have a beer with.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But if he didn't win a World Cup and he's doing these dancing
Then
videos,
it's very lame.
and we're like, our director of rugby is...
Not focused.
I'm a bit concerned here.
Then he's someone alcoholic.
You know what I'm saying?
Perception is everything.
Yeah.
People. You got to be aware.
I think that's a perfect place to leave a conversation of the world's most overqualified water boy. But
That was some funny shit he was pulling. That was hilarious.
I do think we need to move away from the Rassie chats.
I did want to segue from World Cup to World Cup.
Let's go from World Cup to World Cup.
To World Cup. The FIFA World Cup is ongoing in Qatar. It has been no shortage of upsets.
Yeah.
From basically when they signed the bloody papers that they were going to do it to half the games that have been played, where it seems like the footballing world in almost every respect has been turned on its head.
Yeah.
And there's a whole host of very contentious things around this World Cup, which I really want to get into because they're important. And one of the reasons being, one of many, and a lot is just that I want to glean expertise from an expert. But we at the cafe want to do screenings of the games from round of 16 onwards, which is from this Saturday. But I didn't want to do that without, in some way or shape or form, talking about the issues around the World Cup, because we don't want to just outright support it, without dealing with some of the issues. And there are many issues, and some of them are very, very significant. Ranging from Qatar is not a footballing nation, and now there's the FIFA corruption, all of that being one thing. Then how the stadiums were built, the incredible abuse of migrant workers, And then the anti-LGBTQ plus policies, the way that Qatar views those people, the potential danger for a lot of fans going to the World Cup, and then resultantly whatever protest action that was planned by the teams that then got very aggressively shut down by FIFA. And for me, the World Cup has always been something that's brought together the world. I think the FIFA World Cup brings the world together in a way that very few sporting 100%. Events do. But at the same time, we need to... And for that, that's why we want to screen it. It's an incredibly uniting event in so many ways, but within that there's issues, and it's important to talk about that and not just gloss over them while still wanting to support the football and the game. And we love the beautiful game. What is your overall kind of perception been on how this whole Qatar World Cup has been handled from an organizational perspective, more so than anything? I think then we can get into the actual football, because that's a whole separate conversation.
So I've been on learning about FIFA for the past 10 years or so. I've been reading a lot about FIFA and how they operate. And I mean, it's very easy to point the fingers at Qatar, but first things, let's start with FIFA. They created this environment where the executive committee, 24 of them, they have all the power, and they created this the environment where you can just pay. South Africa paid. You paid 10 million.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that same breath, Sepp Blatter I also call him a very complex man, because there is a part of him that does want to grow the game, and he made a promise to South Africa, which they broke in 2006 that went to Germany. And he gave it to us in 2010. He was backing us, blah, blah, blah. But this is all FIFA's creation. They created Qatar, where there's 8 stadiums built, there's 53 kilometers between them. You will never travel for... This is not a footballing nation. Although, I mean, the Middle East deserves a World Cup. Don't get me wrong.
But wasn't there one in America?
There was one in America.
So then that's also the debate there. Is America a footballing nation? So then how do you come to Qatar and people say, oh, no, they're not a footballing nation. But how do you come at that? You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I think there's more of a footy tradition in the USA. It's not the biggest sport.
No, fair.
But
fair
I mean, there's an untapped market there. Whereas, Qatar, I mean, the MLS, that's a professional league where...
No doubt.
And then you get the QSL, the Qatar Stars League, which isn't much of a league. I mean, the only claim to fame there is... Xavi coaching. But I hear you there. I hear you there. And I don't mind if they won the bid fair and square. If that's where, because like I said, the World Cup must go to different continents, and the Middle East is, I mean, when Mamelodi Sundowns or Orlando Pirates, it's not the Middle East, but to North Africa, Morocco and Egypt, the fans are insane. I mean, some of our players, they play in Iraqi leagues or Iran. And I mean, there's 80,000 fans there. It's just not like that in Qatar.
No, fair
But yeah, so first things first, I do think the Middle East deserved the World Cup, don't get me wrong. But FIFA created this environment, but the sheer scale of the payments that Qatar did, it's unbelievable how much money they forked out to win this thing. I mean... I can understand why some of the FIFA guys were like, damn, you want to pay me $5 million. But interestingly, when I was working as a journalist, as a reporter for EWN, KFM and Cape Talk, I had a good contact with Amnesty International, and they were the ones who made the reports about the migrant workers that blew up. And so one of the authors of the report, I would talk to every 3 to 6 months. So I was well aware of the system that, and look, it's not just Qatar. I mean, Saudi, Dubai, UAE are all built off the backs of migrant workers from Nepal, Bangladesh. It's this whole system. So, I mean, you've got to basically change a whole system. That's just how it is there. But it's a shocking reality. I mean, that over 6,000 people died building stadiums, building 8 stadiums. 6,000 people died. That's a crazy amount of people. And that for me, I don't want to go too much into the laws of the country, because it is an Islamic country, and I'll respect it. I don't agree with it. I mean, you rarely see any women in the stadium. So I maybe won't touch that because that's your culture, but it doesn't sit well with me that it's just so like, and they hide the migrant workers in the furthest part away, where me and you, we will never see them.
No, they like ship them off.
Yeah. There's actually a good, I wouldn't normally go to him for sport, but Johnny Harris, he's a good YouTuber. He does come with some good episodes. So he does one on the migrant workers, and which I felt was the best migrant worker coverage I've ever seen. But that's the one that sits hardest with me. It's the migrant workers, because they are promised, like, you're going to work, but I mean, they're basically slaves. Passports are taken. Yeah.
I wonder if it's this line here. Is that fine? Okay, just let me know if it changes.
I wanted to say on this topic, like as you said earlier, it's very easy to point fingers, and not saying like I would agree with Qatar's laws of their country, but as you said, you have to, if it's happening there, you have to respect whatever's going on there, even if in your country it's not legal. Doesn't matter at all. You know what I mean? Like now when we go to America, they have really messed up laws about guns. Abortion.
Exactly.
Is it going to be the same thing?
And how many shootings are there? Look, I don't want to get into the whole whataboutism, but this is the truth.
So like that's the whole
And wait, there was actually something I wanted to say on that. Damn it, forgotten.
No, we'll get back into the comparison in the US.
I had something good to say there with.
You can very easily make that exact same comparison to South Africa.
But so there's no of course you can point fingers, but like there's no.
This is what I wanted to say. I do feel that the coverage on Qatar, there has been a tinge of like Islamophobia, man. The West is like, it's so easy for us because we live our lives, and obviously this way of life that we have, the freedoms that we have, I agree with it, and I think everyone should have it. But these other people's cultures, I do think there's just a tinge of Islamophobia going on in our coverage. And that's not to say, I would respect the culture when I go there, but I wholeheartedly disagree with how they treat the community, the gay community. That's just not how I would roll. But that's their culture, I guess. And we just have to accept that the World Cup's going to be there for a month. But some of the coverage, it does strike me as, come on.
It's like, for the world to be in a space where where the World Cup is inclusive, and where, we're promoting things that promote a diversity of cultures. I completely agree with you. The Middle East deserved a World Cup. There's so many places in the world that deserve a World Cup. And I mean, the opportunity that it brings to particularly developing countries. I don't know if Qatar, I don't feel like they needed the opportunity quite as much. But like, I mean, in South Africa, we weren't one of the major footballing nations. We've obviously got a huge football culture. But we were, and so I agree. I think there has been, an aspect of Islamophobia. I think particularly in the context of other current issues that are happening in Islamic countries that are also around human rights and women's rights. And I think it's particularly contentious. And so, we really run the risk of jumping on a bandwagon of kind of blanket criticizing policies without really getting into the actual root issues behind different things. And I think that's where you really run into the issue where people are just going, all these Islam, because there's an issue in Iran and there's an issue in Qatar. And I think that we need to be very careful of. But I think, again, that's why we need to be having these conversations. I think Jared's made a few excellent points about the World Cup in the US, because I completely agree with you. I think the US is a fucking shit show politically and legally. I have huge problems with the US and the place that they hold in the world order. But right now the World Cup's in Qatar and there are issues. So it's important to deal with them while they're current.
Yeah.
Can we
but
also,
with the context.
can we also say that it's bullshit for people to say that sports and politics don't mix? Sports is so
100%.
entrenched.
Always has been. Always has been.
I mean, I know some people say this is the most political World Cup. I think because we just maybe more aware. But I mean, there's World Cups before that have been just as political. Maybe we were just born yet. But I feel like sport and politics, they will always go together. It's
100%.
that's just the nature of the game. To be honest with you. So we're always going to be talking about these issues. Whatever country you go to.
Sport boycotts were one of the major things that like put major pressure on the apartheid government.
There we go.
Like, we can't be sitting in this country talking about, well, I think anywhere in the world, because I think it's done the same in lots of places in the world. But I mean, the illusion, and people will say like music and politics, or film and politics, sport and politics, like art or expression will always have a political aspect, particularly when there are issues with it. But let's get into the sport side of what's been happening at the World Cup, just to look at the.
But just the migrant workers, my one last thing. That is my biggest thing with the whole World Cup. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Let's get into this the footy.
Yeah. No, and to wrap that up, I think it's important that we have the conversations. It's important that this conversation wouldn't be happening. There wouldn't be pressure on Qatar to be maybe looking at how they handle some of these regulations. They have made some concessions apparently towards how they're going to treat LGBTQ plus people in public. Apparently, they have said some things. What's happening is a completely separate story. But maybe they wouldn't have even said those things if we weren't having a World Cup and we weren't having a conversation around it. And I think that's the role that sport must play in politics, is bringing everyone to the conversation and having it around a shared passion, where we're just trying to say, listen, everyone wants to come watch the football. There are a bunch of gay people that want to come watch the football, and they should be able to enjoy it safely.
Exactly.
Let's deal with that. Let's talk about the football. Yeah. Because the football's been weird.
Yeah.
The football has brilliant. It's been so fun to watch.
It's been weird.
That's the one thing. Despite all the politics of the World Cup, the World Cup is always going to World Cup. Yeah. It's just, it is what it is. It just sucks you in. People were saying before, I'm not gassed about this World Cup, but I'll be honest with you, I knew I was going to be watching like basically everything. A festival of football from 12 o'clock until 11 o'clock the evening, you can watch footy. It's
some of the best footy in the world.
And you're just learning about the World Cup. It's always about learning about new players, learning about new teams. That's what it is for me, It really is like a festival.
Yeah.
But the results, holy shit.
Before we get into that, I just want to talk about the ball. I think the ball, it's like the same thing with the Jabulani. I think that ball's way too light.
Okay.
After seeing all these balls go over the person, I think that ball's way. And also all the 0-0 draws can't be. I think there's something wrong with it.
I think you might be onto something, actually. I haven't been taking much note of the ball, but I mean the Jabulani thing, that was a big deal. There was a bit of Afrophobia back in the coverage of those days, let's be honest. But
the Jabulani was Diego Forlan's
he mastered.
Well, do you know how? He just asked for Adidas 3 months in advance and trained with it.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
And nobody else did. So he was the only one who could control that ball because he'd practiced with it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
How that's
that is a lovely little anecdote there.
So how well earned was that golden boot?
I think you could be onto something. I think you could be onto something with how they're shooting, and it's just flying like that.
Like
I haven't given it much
thought. How often
thought.
do you see that? It's actually it's annoying.
Could that also have, and I don't know, I'm not the sports, but could that also have to do with another contentious issue around this World Cup, which is the time scale change and it being played in a different season to usual, different kind of climate conditions to usual?
Maybe slightly, but
air humidity.
These balls are fucking flying up into
altitude. I don't know. But, that's another thing that's been contentious about the World Cup has been the timing.
Yeah, and now I suddenly want to know more. If people are talking about this actively, now I want to know.
Hot takes in the comments.
Yeah.
Compare the goal scoring against, like, this is how this man has crept into my brain. Like, genuinely, like, it's like whatever you can compare goals scored against your XG or expected goals, compare that in similar scenarios. So use that against the QSL. See, like, nah.
We'll get into a proper analysis on it.
But you know what my big problem is? This is the first World Cup where I'm of a betting kind now.
And
you know how frustrating it has been.
Oh my! Well, when you work for a betting company, we smiling. Obviously, there are days where you're smiling.
Yeah,
like when Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia. I mean, that was just
awesome.
And then Germany, Japan, Morocco, Belgium. So it has been frustrating in that sense. But I mean, there has been some good days lately.
Yeah.
And also, but even for me, I don't like necessarily betting on, when it comes to soccer, about results. Yeah. I usually bet on goals, like overs or
that's
unders.
The thing
but that's even been hard itself.
That's for me, is every single game that I think is going to be a low-scoring game.
It's Cameroon, Switzerland recently, 3-3.
Oh no, what was the one that was yesterday 4-1? It was
4-1 was...
You got to check there.
Yeah.
Cameroon, Switzerland, there was Ghana and who else? Ghana's with Uruguay. No, is it Ghana and Switzerland?
Yes, I think it was Portugal, Uruguay, Brazil, and...
No, Brazil and... yesterday.
Ghana, South Korea 3-2, but there was a 4-1.
Ghana and South Korea.
There was a 4-1. Croatia, Canada. Like...
Oh, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And I mean, even and the Canada game against Belgium. Yeah. I think that was over a weekend. I'm really impressed by that Canadian side. I really wanted them to, but they just could not finish. Yeah. Like their XG must have been, XG is expected goals for those listening. It's like a data point metric. And a metric that they use. Like we expect them to score X amount. Their XG must have been like 3 to 4 goals. They had such great chances against Belgium. But yeah, I guess for a punter, if you're trying to predict, it hasn't been the easiest. But I mean, if you're watching just as a fan, I mean, I'm like loving it.
That makes it so fun. Yeah. Like you get to actually just watch a game and have no idea how it's going to go. And I think that's been cool. Like it has kind of very much flipped the script in these first few games. I mean, there's some, I was looking at, again, I don't have time to watch nearly as much as I'd like to, but there could be some very, very interesting teams in the round of 16 that no one would have expected, that beat out world-class teams to make for what I think, but again, that's what the World Cup
Saudi Arabia, top their group.
Tomorrow, Saudi Arabia could genuinely
top their group.
I think they play Mexico, Is it Mexico? So, I mean, they could qualify for the round of 16. That would be wild.
But you're allowed to give picks working for...
Yeah, that's what they do. So our podcast is like...
so you can say, this is my pick.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. You could make a lot of money. I'm joking.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like they'd be silly to listen to us, to our podcast. No, I'm just joking. Our podcast is good. It's very informative. But I always think if you are betting, don't bet just on what someone else says. No. You have to have your own knowledge.
Do your own research.
You have to have your own knowledge and take from what we're saying. I mean, sometimes we are very specific about what we think it's going to happen, but you must also use your own knowledge of the game to place your bets. That's why, for me, if anyone's getting into sports betting, have a budget. Please have a budget.
Don't bet with the money that you could do.
Yeah. But learn the sport. Be passionate about the sport. Like, find out, man. So me, I really bet on soccer anymore because there's a lot of heartbreak in soccer. I'm more of a rugby and NFL person. Okay. But yeah, sports betting can be really fun if you are willing, if you have a budget to lose. People must never think of sports betting as
a way to make
money. It just doesn't work out that way. It's really as well as you know the sport, as well as you think the results are going to go away. There's things that are going to come up, like this World Cup.
World Cup being the most perfect
case
example.
In point. So it's definitely a fun exercise, and when you do win big, it's the most amazing feeling. But there are going to be way more lows than there are going to be highs. So just have fun with it and play within your budget.
Also, winners know when to stop.
Winners know when to stop.
I use it as a way to just be like more invested
Into
in.
the, yes.
Into the,
Big time.
You just bet on the 4 games for the day.
Yeah.
I actually stopped betting on the early kickoff because fuck that shit. I've been fucked over so many times.
So that's a golden rule in Premier League betting.
Yeah.
Premier League, yeah.
Never bet on the lunchtime game. That's like a better's rule, like a unwritten rule.
Because all my multi-bets, first game, fucks me up.
Wax it.
And then the rest of the bets all hit.
Okay, so you like your multis. Okay.
Yeah, me and Jared are sitting here. We've got like the world, like we're working. Caveat: we are working, but it's on mute. But we have a game in between us, so it like just like you can have a glance over, like because so many times like we never see like a goal, but then we're like, oh, there was a goal, and we watch the replay. But and then Jared and me like every morning we're like, oh, have you done your multi yet? Like we're sitting next to each other.
That's quite cool.
I walked in
nice.
the other day and there's Dury's iPad with the World Cup and Jared, and they're just sitting there working. I goes over, check what's going on.
So here's my multi for today.
Let's see.
We can call it work research.
Yes,
So-
I want to hear.
But here's my problem. Is Jared bets straight results half of the time.
Yes.
I told him what a double
stopped.
chance is now.
I stopped doing that.
That's
so,
why. Yes, Durant is listening. Okay.
so I got Ecuador, Senegal, both teams to score. I got Netherlands to win,
Okay, fair.
USA to draw or win, and England to win. So that gives me a total
Wait,
odds
you say USA 2?
to draw or win.
Double
Okay,
chance.
nice. Double chance. I like that. I like that cushion that you're
Yeah.
giving yourself.
So my
Okay.
total odds come to 4.7.
Okay, that's
Okay.
nice. So what did you say the Wales-England one was?
England to win.
England to win. But if they don't win, it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I'm taking that gamble.
It's if England don't win, that
Okay,
it's never coming home.
the Ecuador, Senegal, you said both teams to score.
I don't trust
Because
that.
Senegal, I also don't trust that. But I mean, Senegal have to.
They have to do something.
They have to do something to
So
go
I'm,
through.
banking
But I'm
on
worried that Ecuador's just going to close
Got
that, lock
like
that shit
over
up.
2.5 year rather.
But I like where your head's at there. But
you.
that's what. I'm glad you're not just doing straight wins.
I started off like that.
That will kill you.
Yeah,
That
this
will kill
World Cup, that would absolutely destroy you.
That will
because
kill you.
Like 4 of the games we've mentioned,
Yeah.
you would absolutely bet on the team that lost.
I like your multi though. I think
Thank you.
Well, I mean, by the time it comes out, we'll know. The
Yeah.
podcast comes out, we'll know the results.
Well,
so.
I think we're looking at getting this one out on Thursday, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So it'll be a nice little check-in just after the games. We'll see how well you did. We're gonna clip this. This is a real Jared's predictions or Jared's bet, and we're gonna see which one
you
of
gotta
them
give him
came
a
through on our
scorecard.
overlay.
Who's your
Yeah.
prediction to win the World Cup then?
Cool.
Think Brazil, eh?
It's hard to look past them, yeah. And you guys?
Because here's my thing: is I made my shots. I made my shots before
What was your OG
the World Cup, and that's obviously been influenced. My thinking genuinely it was it's going to South America. That was my thinking. I didn't feel the heat of a Brazil side up until actually like seeing them now performing. I was genuinely thinking it's either Argentina or Uruguay. And Uruguay was like my dark horse shot. Like
I think they were my dark horses, but I don't think they can attack. They look so disjointed. Oh my word! So
and I think for them to get into the round of 16, I think it's the game against Ghana.
Yeah,
and I want
the Black Stars.
So I did the I checked like if these people end up
the permutations.
they're on like a collision course with like France. Uruguay has like a, so that's when I realized okay, maybe my dark horse is not going to dark horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to look past Brazil. I would love, and sport has this amazing thing of telling beautiful stories from the results. So I was hoping that the Messi Argentina, Messi capping off his career with I thought that was a real possibility. And I still do. If they have to beat Poland tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can Argentina, Portugal be in the final, or do they meet each other in knockouts? Because
I don't think anymore. I don't think anymore.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
If they both topped their groups, they could have. I think if one of them is second.
And then Brazil, because Brazil and Argentina were actually, if they both finished top, I think they were on a collision course in the semi-final. Yeah. But I would really love the Argentina Messi that story to be told at this World Cup. That would really.
So I take it you are Messi over Ronaldo.
I am, unfortunately, but I mean, I can get your Ronaldo argument. I can get someone's Ronaldo argument because the guy's done it in multiple leagues, blah, blah, blah. But whereas Messi's an artist for me, like it's hard to clone, would be hard to clone someone like Messi. Because, I mean, his passing range, he can finish. And then there's Ronaldo, who's the epitome of hard work, dedication, obviously talent as well. But just his physicality is what he can do with his body. And he's just a machine. Like it's robot. This insane, and a robot in the nicest way possible against this artist.
Yeah, to me, the Ronaldo Messi argument, and look, they're both like let's stop like faffing about who's the best. Like the fact that we've been alive and been able to watch arguably the two greatest footballers of all time play together, play in a league together, play against one another in so many different. That's been a huge privilege for me. It comes down to Ronaldo is. If you had to build the perfect footballer, like physicality, obviously he's put in a ton of hard work and no whatever to that. But like just his build, his genetic, everything, like he should be an amazing footballer. Messi absolutely should not. Like from his physical, like in terms of his physical stature, in terms of like he's small, he had growth issues when he was growing up, like all of that. For me, that's the like, and it's the artistry, it's the story, it's the like, this little, Argentinian dude who came and became the biggest.
But I will say, like, the one thing is, like, if you look at his physicality, Messi's physicality helps him. Like, he's got a lower sense of gravity. He's got a little bit of a drop suspension, he turns a little bit quicker. It's all beautiful.
No, it's absolutely. But the poeticism of them winning.
My argument would be, like, with responsibility comes accountability. So, like, let's use the Argentina losing to Saudi. If that was Ronaldo, if that was Portugal that lost to Saudi, Ronaldo would have got ripped apart. But Messi took almost no heat.
Yeah, but you got to look around. You got to look at what's around you.
No, but I mean, Ronaldo has Bruno and all these other players in the Portugal team. But I can kid you not, if they lost that game, Ronaldo would have been ripped. Like, oh, this is your goat. This is your goat. That whole agenda. So, like, with things like that, I would say Ronaldo has the edge, just with the responsibility. Like Messi, can he really be?
Messi's the little guy.
Can he be your captain? You know what I mean? Like,
Messi's the little guy.
Messi's taken this Argentina side to a World Cup final in his lifetime.
Fair enough.
He's won a Copa America, and the Copa America is also not the easiest competition as well.
Yeah, it's all those teams you're all mentioning.
Ronaldo has a Euro, but I feel that the Messi stands would have come for. I mean, the Ronaldo stands already came for Messi because of Saudi Arabia. I think it works both ways, man. Or you think it's a bit lopsided?
I think everyone's on Ronaldo's ass, especially now.
Yeah, but
it's also the United shit.
It, though. I'm going to be honest with you. What that shit he pulled with United.
Piers Morgan.
Yeah, for me, that's not cool. As much as we cannot argue with this dude because he's just one of the greatest, that moves he's been pulling, the NOS is just off the charts, bro.
I do think it is for the, like, as like messed up as it could be, like right now, I do think it's for the greater good of like United.
Oh, yes, that he leaves, definitely.
Not that he leaves, and just that like he exposed him to a certain degree, like things of like some of the electronic stuff, like the hardware that they did.
Oh yeah, like you actually went into specifics.
Like, it's the same since he left. They're using the same hardware. Like how does that, like small things like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the analysis, their scouting department is like years behind Liverpool's, things like that. So
on that front, like, of course, you should never do something like that. But because he did it, at least something good is coming out of it.
I'll never agree with how he did it, with what he did. But maybe it is a good thing for United. This was all for him to manufacture a move.
No, of course.
And I mean, it worked out for United. They're not paying him a cent to leave. So actually, in essence, I think for both parties, it works out.
Yeah.
And it comes fairly full circle to the conversation we were having about Rassie in the very beginning, and how, we may not agree with how he's done things, and how, it's disrespectful, not considerate of the refs, blah, 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 which is all true and fair. And I think the same goes for the Ronaldo thing. Like, there's just certain things that as a professional footballer, particularly as like the leader that he is, and the response is just not acceptable. But maybe it forces a change that might not have happened another way. And then, hindsight is 2020. Maybe we look back on it in 2 years and go, oh, well, that's what changed things at United.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the best thing he could have done for United at the end of his career. We don't know that, but I inherently agree with you.
And let it be known that only someone like Ronaldo can do something so not cool and it still be a topic of debate, because he's built that cachet, he's built that credit where we're still arguing, should he have done it? He should, no player should ever, but he's not equal to most players.
100%.
I think. What?
No, I was letting you do what you were about to do.
Right. I just want to rein it back now.
Yeah.
It was a really fun chat doing, talking rugby, talking World Cup, talking Ronaldo, talking Messi. Like, this is like, I kind of want to start ending and closing this chapter by bringing it back to you, Mr. Lewis, because I want to, from somebody who, like I mentioned, most frequently contacted on my WhatsApp. I do want to find out from you, kind of, what. I think you move in such a very graceful line between, you said, I'm not creative, but I genuinely do think you are, in how you've curated this ecosystem of people who really appreciate sport and people who really like talking about sports. So I think that fine line between being a creative and being a sports lover to the nth degree, I think you do walk that line very closely. And I actually want to just kind of put it back to you, and like, how do you feel, like, what's the next, I think, evolution of that for you? I mean, you're back on Good Hope FM now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the evolution me and you have been working together now for over a year. The evolution would be to get Jared involved next. That is just glaringly missing in my scope of work. That is just so obvious that I need to go video.
Yeah.
That needs, for me, it's clear. That's where I need to be. And I mean, we've spoken about it multiple times, and I just need to give it the time. But like you said, I'm doing a Good Hope now. In the new year, I'm going to do some work for MI Cape Town. Some writing work. No, but we're still working on that other things.
Okay.
Anyway, but that's definitely the evolution for me. And I think sports betting is really growing in South Africa. And betting is also such a great way to talk about sports. It just opens up a whole new avenue of things to talk about when it comes to sport. You can get super detailed, very specific, and also have a lot of banter around it as well. And I mean, for me, I'd love to be the first proper sports betting show in South Africa. Obviously online, but I have this idea in my head of every week for 45 minutes. The people I speak to. I'm covering 7 sports, but congesting that into 45 minutes, 5 minutes on each sport, bang, 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 bang. That's ideally how I see it. Will it play out that way? I don't know. I hope so. But that's the next step,
Okay.
Let's make it happen.
Might as well. And then, Brad, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, and I wanted to echo Dory's statement on the creativity thing, because I think it's something we come back to a lot on this podcast, is what we limit creativity to meaning. And I think there's a huge problem just societally where we box what creativity means. And I think the more that, and why I like love that BetCoza give you the flexibility that they do give you, is that that's an organization that understands the value of that largely, not dictated creativity and the value of that in a like corporate or business environment is huge and severely underutilized, I think, in the world of work at large. And so, I wanted to echo that. And and thank you for spending your time with us now and for having spent so much time with us, and particularly Dury over the last year. And I think we're very excited to make that video show happen. So we'll get cracking on that.
Not this month.
Not this month. Not in December. No, sir. But thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any final words for the people?
I mean, we mustn't forget how it started. I had no idea about podcasting, and someone did connect us. Johnny connected us, and we got the ball rolling from there. And I was like a novice, and it's crazy how much growth you have in a year. Now I'm a prolific podcaster.
Yeah, you are. 500 episodes in the belt.
Yeah, and I just sometimes I feel it's luck. Like, I know I do work hard, but there's also a bit of luck when it comes to, I feel, with my professional career, like an opportunity comes or someone connected me to the right person that I needed at the time. And that's definitely been the case with CAYA. It was exactly the right company, and then Dury became that right person to drive me to that next level. I mean, to do sometimes I sit back and I'm like, yo, dude, you actually shouldn't be that hard on yourself. You do work fucking hard. You are creating good content. Don't fucking sell yourself short.
100%.
You build something lekker, man.
Absolutely.
But that's also, you don't build something lekker on your own necessarily. And I think it helped. Luck was on my side when I was connected with CAYA. So I want to give some love to CAYA and obviously Durant.
Thank you.
I wouldn't be where I am now. I don't know. Maybe I don't think someone I could find someone that would have been so open to sport, because we just talk and it can be boring stuff. I mean, there have been podcasts where I'm like, oh, okay, what time does this finish? But for the most part, you know, Dury's there and he's giving feedback and he's like, I took this bet, I took that bet.
No, but if I'm being honest, like it's also because I have to be quite engaged with what's going on. I mean, even funny anecdote, and I think it's a perfect one to kind of end it off on, is literally when we were sitting here doing this podcast, every single time I heard Carl say it's like I've got this reflex where I just like have to like edit it out, or
Dury's thumbs
like I'm like
that was a very I found that hysterical. That was very, very funny. On that note, good one to end on, Dury. I hope my mic isn't flatlining, because this would be a horrible time for it to happen.
You're good, but it was cracking.
Wonderful.
Kiro, just one question before. Who do you think is going to win the World Cup?
To be honest, I don't really watch soccer.
But you have to give a prediction.
I don't really watch soccer, right? But like, I did do some research, and I did have a feeling it was Argentina. So when you said that,
but what top did you just buy?
oh yeah. So basically, like, I come from like a English like supporting family.
Okay.
So like, yeah,
So you got your English shirt.
yeah.
Well, that's fine.
I'm a support you to end things off. My family is English.
Let's go.
There will also be a beautiful story in football coming home.
Oh, Brad, you're flatlining.
You flatline.
Give him a mic. Give him a mic.
Really? Wait, hold on. I'm going to sort myself out. There we go. Is that working? I think it is now. Okay. I'm going to support you. I think there would also be a beautiful story in football coming home to England. I think they've got a good team this year. There's a bunch of young uns that I think would make for some fun.
They have a good team every year.
I also think, well, that's the other thing. I also think it would be more funny to extend it for another 4 years, because I think they just need to get far enough that the English fans get riled up again. Because that's the English fans getting riled up is the best part of England doing well in football.
I think that's globally, that's what fans love to see. But for me, like, I consume so much Premier League football. We do a Premier League podcast, and it's like you live and breathe with these people every week. So I do feel a sense of, I know these dudes, man. And also, Gareth Southgate is not the most popular guy. I like an underdog story where the guy's maybe not the coolest dude. So I don't mind not the coolest dude winning, because he's so boring and dry. I'm like, sometimes the boring guy must win.
A little bit of chaos.
All right.
Do you
Thank you,
want to close it out?
Guys, in the comment section below, just
Tell us who you think.
Comment who you think's going to win the World Cup, or if if you have no stake in the game, just say it's coming home. Flip.
Say something controversial.
Say something
Has
controversial.
anyone ever commented something?
I don't even know.
They do
but
sometimes.
we do.
Really?
Yeah, we
sick.
got to keep encouraging it.
No, that's what I say. This could be the first time it happens.
This would be the one where the banter goes off.
and ask for a comment.
Yeah,
too.
no,
And
this
guys-
is another reel.
And guys, like genuinely, like check out the Bet Central podcast. If you have any semblance of sports, like you like sports a little bit, like check out Bet Central. There's a lot of episodes on there. And yeah, Carl, thank you so much. We'll
Pleasure.
put all of your socials as well if you want, like in the description, episode description. But yeah, and this is the CAYACast.
Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your time. Give it a like, subscribe wherever
follow.
you're listening to this. Give a comment on who you think
Share
should
it
win
with
the
your
World
auntie.
Cup. Share it with your auntie or your uncle or whoever cares about sports. And have a beautiful day further.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
It's coming home.